Ladies and gentlemen, how do?
Hello all you lovely people, and welcome to a little something I like to call the Westminster Weather Forecast, where we predict storms, explain cabinet reshuffles, and occasionally discover that the person smiling warmly at you has already removed your job, your office, and possibly your parking space. Let's begin, shall we? Britain has a new Prime Minister. Andy Burnham has walked into number 10, promising unity, compassion, and a government that listens. And then, almost immediately, he picked up the phone and started firing people. Because nothing says fresh start quite like a man introducing himself by conducting a political version of The Apprentice. Except instead of losing a luxury holiday, contestants lose control of a government department and spend the next 6 months writing angry newspaper columns. And the biggest surprise, everyone thought Andy Burnham was the friendly bloke from Manchester. The approachable one, the man who looks like he'd apologized to a chair after bumping into it. But behind the smile was apparently something much colder. A politician described by one supporter as a cold-hearted lizard. Which is concerning, because Britain has finally found a Prime Minister who looks like he'd help you carry your shopping bags, but has the emotional warmth of a frozen supermarket aisle. Tonight, who survived? Who was sacrificed? Who made a career move that is clearly just being moved further away from the cameras? And most importantly, who is currently pretending they are delighted with their new role, while quietly Googling, how long does a political comeback take? The friendly face of political frost, Andy Burnham's first days as Prime Minister have already produced one of the great Westminster transformations, the public version of Andy Burnham. Hello, I'm Andy. Let's work together. Let's listen. Bring people together. The private Westminster version. Hello, I'm Andy. Lovely to meet you. Please leave your government-issued laptop on the desk. It turns out the friendly Northern Mayor routine may have been hiding something rather more ruthless. A political equivalent of a cuddly toy with a hidden blade inside. Paddington Bear if Paddington had a spreadsheet of ministers to remove. And his first target, the closest allies of Keir Starmer, because nothing says new chapter like immediately deleting the previous chapter. Burnham's message was clear. This is not Keir Starmer's government anymore. It was less of a reshuffle, more of a political house clearance. A man walked into number 10 and basically said, right, whose name is still written on the fridge? Rachel from accounting. David Lammy? Gone. Anyone who has recently used the phrase under Keir's leadership. Please collect your belongings from reception. The fall of the Starmerites, it was brutal. Some ministers were removed so quickly they barely had time to update their LinkedIn profiles. Imagine getting fired from government and your first instinct is, I should update my CV. Then remembering your previous job was literally running the country. That's the sort of career setback where, available for new opportunities, feels slightly unnecessary. Biggest casualties were those closest to Sir Curry and beer. Rachel from accounting, former Chancellor and champion photocopier. She steered the fastest tea trolley in Westminster, a position normally associated with enormous power, influence, authority. And now, apparently, a very comfortable chair on the back benches, her tea trolley licence revoked. Breaking news. Just in, we have received a video message from the ex-Chancellor, Rachel from accounting. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hello, I'm writing this message to say that I will no longer be your budget person. I went to the job centre today and they were very confused and didn't understand my CV and couldn't believe that I was the Chancellor of this country. And can you believe it? They asked if I'd made up my CV. I said, not that part, no. Anyway, they said that there weren't any jobs available for me that matched my skill set. So I think that says everything, really. That's overqualification for you. However, seeing as I was kicked out and the country still love me, I will not go easily. That is why I am announcing today that I will be standing in the by-election against Nigel Farage and the Bin Man. Let's face facts, I'm the best of a bad bunch. I turn up and I have a face. I also hear that Clacton is by the sea and has an issue with boats. Well, kick me in the shin, spit in my eye and call me Rachbeard. I'm the perfect pirate for the task. Yes, I am still technically an MP, but I don't know what MP means. Many Prime Ministers, I thought. Let's face facts, I'll probably be fired soon because I don't know what I'm doing. Even more reason to vote for me in the by-election. Why aren't you?
Well, that was very enlightening, wasn't it? Rachel from accounting looking her usual excitable self there. Let's return to the scheduled video now. Backbenches are where former government ministers go to stare into the middle distance and explain that they are still very much involved. Which usually means they attend meetings, they make speeches, and they wait patiently for someone else to make a mistake. Enter John Shinyhead Healey, the surprise Chancellor, and then came the biggest surprise, John Healey becoming Chancellor. A remarkable political comeback. Only weeks ago, Healey resigned as Defence Secretary, a move that many saw as a direct challenge to Starmer's leadership. He insisted it was about principle, about defence spending, about Britain's security, and absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that political careers occasionally require dramatic exits before dramatic returns. Of course not. This was purely about values. Same way a footballer leaving a club after an argument with the manager is always all about ambition and never about wanting a better contract. Healey's criticism was especially interesting because he complained about the Treasury being unwilling to spend more on defence. And now, he runs the Treasury. That must be awkward. Imagine spending months saying, people in charge of this department don't understand the problem. Then being told, congratulations, you're in charge of the department. It's the political equivalent of complaining about your restaurant meal and then being promoted to head chef. The return of Angie the Raver Rayner, another major return. Angela Rayner is back as Housing Secretary. Rayner previously resigned from Starmer's cabinet after controversy surrounding her tax affairs. But after settling those issues, she has returned. And politically, this is fascinating, because Rayner's comeback says a lot about Burnham's approach. This is not a government trying to avoid controversy. This is a government saying, we have looked at the controversy, considered the controversy, decided the controversy can sit quietly in the corner while we get on with things. It's a very Westminster solution. Don't eliminate the problem. Give it a ministerial office. That's how politics works. A crisis doesn't disappear. It gets promoted. The attack of the Northerners. One clear theme of the reshuffle. The North is back. Burnham's allies have received major promotions. Lucy Powell returns as Education Secretary. Jonathan Reynolds returns as Business Secretary. Annalise Midgley becomes Chief Whip. A group sometimes described as Burnham's Northern Queens. which sounds less like a political faction and more like a very competitive regional quiz team. Welcome to Northern Queens. Tonight's categories: public transport failures, housing shortages, and identifying which minister is about to resign. But politically, the message is obvious. Burnham is building a government around people he trusts, and after years of internal Labour battles, trust is apparently now the rarest currency in Westminster, more valuable than gold, more valuable than popularity, possibly more valuable than a functioning printer in a government office. The great political lateral move. Of course, not everyone was removed. Some ministers survived. Others experienced what Westminster calls a lateral move. Is a beautiful phrase, a lateral move. It sounds like a dance, but in politics it means you still have a job, but everyone knows something happened. Vet Cooper moved from Foreign Secretary to Health Secretary. Now, supporters will argue this is a major role, and they're right. The NHS and social care are enormous challenges. But moving someone from Foreign Secretary to Health Secretary does create a slightly strange image. 1 minute you're discussing global diplomacy. The next you're discussing hospital waiting lists. From Britain's relationship with international partners. 2. Why is there still a 6-month queue for a dentist? That's quite a change of scenery. The hangers on. Pat Mr. Margoo McFadden muddled through to be the Work and Pensions Secretary, a key role as Burnham promises welfare reform, and Lisa Lemon, sucking Nandy, remains in charge of culture, media and sport, now with additional digital responsibilities. Because apparently the future of Britain depends on culture, sport, media, and remembering where we saved our passwords. Meanwhile, Kanishka Narayan receives a promotion to AI Minister, a sign that artificial intelligence is becoming more important. Although, judging by Westminster, artificial intelligence may soon be the only intelligence left in the building. Running joke callback. Some are asking if Burnham really is a cold-hearted lizard. I think we should be careful. Calling someone a lizard is unfair. Lizards are actually very efficient. They don't spend 6 months arguing about internal party politics. They don't release 10-page policy documents. And they rarely say, need to have a difficult conversation, which is the phrase politicians use before making everyone else have a difficult conversation. The optics. So what does this reshuffle tell us? The optics are fascinating. Andy Burnham wants to appear as both a unifier and a decisive leader. A friendly face with a ruthless political machine underneath. A man saying, I want everyone working together, while rearranging the furniture so aggressively that half the previous occupants have been thrown out of the window. The challenge now is simple. A reshuffle creates headlines. It creates excitement. Creates the feeling that something dramatic is happening, but eventually comes the difficult bit, actually governing. Because a new cabinet can create a fresh image. It can create new energy. It can create endless discussions like this one, but eventually someone has to fix things. The NHS, the economy, housing, public services, and possibly the ancient Westminster tradition of ministers saying, I am absolutely delighted to be taking on this new challenge, which roughly translates as, I was expecting to be promoted, but I'm trying very hard not to look disappointed. So there we have it. Andy Burnham's first act as Prime Minister, a smile on the outside, a reshuffle axe on the inside. The Northern takeover with a splash of ginger has begun. The old guard has been moved aside. The new team is in place. And somewhere in Westminster, dozens of politicians are currently practicing the phrase, I remain fully supportive of the Prime Minister, while quietly checking whether their old office still has their coat. Another case of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, just one neo-liberal handing off the bat onto another one. Well, folks, if you enjoyed this video, then not only are you lovely people, but you also have great taste, and you should also subscribe to the Two Davies for news and politics from a very Scottish perspective, and that rantastic Mr. McGuinness. Cue growling cat.